All right, guys, thanks so much. Joined by AJ Preller here at Petco Park after Jackson Merrill signs a 9-year contract extension with the San Diego Padres. AJ, congratulations to you and your front office staff. Obviously, an excellent day. I thought one of the things you mentioned during the press conference, all the thanks you gave to your player development staff, the scouting staff, it was very clear to me that this is obviously very much about Jackson, his talent, his character, but also the ability to find that talent, to find that character, develop it properly, identify it. What kind of example is Jackson Merrill and this contract of good scouting and what player development can do with a talent like this?
Yeah, it's the lifeblood of any organization. You know, a lot of people say it. It's just the truth. And again, like we have a lot of players that are playing in the big leagues for us right now, whether it's on the pro, amateur, international side, and key pieces of a good team. And then a lot of guys that are throughout the league that are impactful because. And again, we've been able to identify talent. And in this case, I think the biggest thing was, Jackson, obviously everybody sees him right now as, the rookie of the year last year and one of the best players in the game. But he, again, he was a little bit of an under the radar type guy. He was going to Army originally. That was his original connection to West, commitment to West Point, switched that senior year to Kentucky. But our scouting group to be able to identify him as a player that honestly, when we came into this room actually for the draft, he was at the top of our board, even though we were picking at the end of the first round. So that doesn't always line up like that. But, having evaluators that consistently have shown they're really good at picking players, and then a development staff that puts them in an environment where it's 12-month a year baseball development. It's learning the game constantly and learning what winning baseball looks like. And it's a work ethic component that Riley Westman and his group puts them in. And then, like I mentioned, given to a big league staff where Schulte and that group, can take a young player, a 20-year-old shortstop and be open-minded to, let's think about him in center field and start him on opening day and continue his development at the big league level. There's been so much that Schulte, his staff, has given to Jackson as well. Obviously, Jackson's the one playing. He's the one that's a super talent that's doing it out on the field. But it's a nice day for the organization to be able to highlight some of the people behind the scenes that have added to this day today.
When you think about where Jackson was 13 and a half months ago, you mentioned it, moving to center, making an opening day roster at the age of 20. Has he been even better than what you could have imagined in 1 year?
Yeah, I mean, again, like I think we've talked about it in terms of I think we felt like he was this type of player that had the ability to impact games and seasons this quickly. I mean, somebody that beats his draft class to the big leagues, and then pretty quickly throughout all of last year felt like just was improving each month and better as the year went on, and into the off season, into this year, the start of this year, just showing there's even more levels there. That's been great. Just the the acceleration that he's had and the ability to be ready for the big league game. But again, I think we felt like he's this type of talent to do it this quickly on this stage on a great team. He's breaking into a team that's a playoff type team. That's a pretty big compliment to him.
AJ, one thing you said during the press conference that really struck me was that Peter Seidler would be proud of a day like today. How does a contract like this with this kind of player continue to go along with Peter's vision for this club?
Yeah, I think something that, again, from the first day that I've been in this job, it's always been about the big stage and putting San Diego and the fans. And, I think it's cool to be part of a city that the expectation now is World Series, and you do that with elite players. And, year after year after year, we talk about having a core group of guys that that the fans know are championship caliber. And when you come to Petco, you're going to see excellence. So, again, I think that's the pursuit. That's what Peter and myself and the baseball ops team. That's what we've tried to do here over the last decade. And Jackson clearly adds to that. So I know Peter was always excited to hear about Jackson as a minor league player. He knew he was going to be one of these players that would be a guy that would bring a championship to San Diego at some point in time, maybe more as shortstop than in center field. But I'm sure Peter would be super excited about today.
We're joined by AJ Preller, Padres president of baseball operations and general manager, to talk about the deal itself. Reportedly guarantees Jackson $135 million, can max out at upwards of $200 million. I think from the outside looking in, it seems, considering Jackson's age, his talent level, what guys got this offseason, like a pretty team-friendly deal, like a deal that could really benefit the Padres and allow you to add pieces around Jackson, which is something he mentioned. How do you view the deal itself, the numbers?
Yeah, I mean, again, you're 21 years old and you're signing a deal for north of $100 million. I think the biggest thing is like it's what's important to the player, it's what's important to his representatives, and what's important to us. So, again, like there have been, you look out in other deals, Jackson Churio or Corbin Carroll that are also elite talents in the game. They've signed for less than Jackson signed. There's been guys like Jackson mentioned have signed for more. Ultimately, it's what the player is happy about. He indicated from minute one when we talked to him, hey, he wanted to do well financially in a spot where his family would be taken care of and he'd be taken care of and generations of Merrills would be taken care of. And then he wanted to do it in a way that I think ultimately, that he had the ability to make sure that we had, the other great players around him. And you look at other guys in sports, usually it's the guys that win championships and end up in the Hall of Fame that have done that as well in other sports. It just speaks to who Jackson is, and the things that are important to him and why we wanted to do this deal. And as we got into it, Nick Ennis and others and his representatives, we also wanted to make sure there was some escalation in there and the ability for him to go out and earn more dollars and see a pathway to, to the bigger dollars. And so I think we tried to check each one of those boxes in the deal. And again, I think it was a pretty clean negotiation because Jackson was very straightforward what he was looking for, what he wanted to do, and we have a great relationship with his representatives, and ultimately able to get the deal done.
A couple more questions for you, as I know we all have to get ready for this game coming up at 1:10. Padres going for a 7-0 record. So AJ, it's been a very good week for everybody here at Petco Park. How do you view your core of players now? Because you have Manny, Xander, some guys that are in their 30s already. You have Fernando, who's in his mid-20s. Now you have Jackson, who's only 21. You've got guys like Salas, DeVries waiting in the wings who are even younger. How do you view your core, top to bottom now?
Yeah, I think they're all guys. The one common thread, they're all guys that have real makeup and are championship type players that have elite talent. And I think having. Again, I think the ability to space out some players, and we talked about it there in the conference. We've talked about it, internally in the roster build over the last, 5+ years. You have, players that, at different points in time, some are ascending, and that piece over the next, just to sit back and every year, hey, you're going to have Hall of Fame caliber players like Machado or, like perennial all-stars like Bogarts, and then a Tatis that hopefully right now is just entering his prime at 25, 26 years old, and then Jackson, that's going to be able to play right along there with them. So it's a good blend, energy, youth, different stages of their careers. Ultimately, all of those guys are capable of winning MVPs and being guys that can win you a World Series. So, I think as it all fits together, we feel like it works in terms of, having those those types of players under contract at different stages in their careers. And I think that's what we've seen here in the start of the year too. Like the continuity of those guys coming together and their games complement each other and their personalities complement each other. We saw that all of last year. I think we're going to see that here over the next decade with those guys together.
Yeah, we've seen a real cohesion the first week of this 2025 season. I'll finish up by asking you a question that I asked Jackson. What do you envision when it's all said and done as the legacy of Jackson Merrill, the San Diego Padre?
I think that's for him to really talk about. But I think the things that he talks about all the time and we talk about as an organization is winning. And doing it in a way that it's about giving back to the community. We have the best fan base in the game. The fans are thirsty and hungry for a championship. And I think the coolest part, and it's done with our players and our staff, is the expectations. From 10 years ago, where it was. Again, like get to the playoffs, finish over 500. It's like that's right now. That bar's been shifted. The standards go win championships, be there every year in October, and that's what Jackson brings to the table. I think that's going to be his legacy. As somebody that's day in, day out. That's all he really thinks about. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to bring to the city of San Diego, and it's a big reason why we're here today with the contract.
AJ, congratulations on the deal. A long way from Severna Park, Maryland, when you first saw Jackson Merrill trying to go incognito, so nobody else was on him. Thanks so much for the time, and hopefully the Padres can finish up a perfect homestand to begin the year today. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Sam.
That's AJ Preller, Padres president of baseball operations and general manager. Again, Again, a big thank you to AJ and Jackson Merrill, very gracious with their time on a game coming up in less than 3 hours here. Great stuff here, guys. A lot of excitement. Great day for the San Diego Padres, the front office, and certainly the fans as well. Back to you.